basically, how did you get to this point in life? Like maybe like what occurrences happened in your life to get to this point to where you did develop as someone who wants to give as much as you do. Because I know that there's not a lot of givers in this world. And so it would be interesting to take this time to like really dive deep into all of your whys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So Simon Sinek was a big impact on me at one point. His video Start With Why was brilliant. And I think it really allowed me to figure out something really key for my entire career. And that is, if you really know who you are and you really know what drives you as a human being, you should really lean into that and just find ways in which, no matter what you're doing in the physical space, in the business sector, whatever it is, lean into who you are and make those themes and cornerstones of growth, again, for whatever it is that you're doing. So whatever you're trying to pursue, get really crystal clear on who you are. And I think those are themes that need to show up. I know for me it was simple. I've always been a very sensitive person, like very much an empath, very much someone who um enjoyed and was very easy to feel what others were feeling, and to have a pretty deep ability to feel myself. Like I know when I feel things, I feel them in a very, very deep way.
Mm.
So, that for me was just me being a really sincere person, because it was a choice. I've realized it's a choice. I could choose to allow myself to feel this way, because allowing that is almost like you being vested in that other person, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So, I learned early on that it's a choice that I want to make. So for me, sincerity, which doesn't sound like it would be a really solid business tactic, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
is my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
When I meet with, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, where did you develop that from? Like, where do you think that came from?
I was really lucky early on in life. Um, I've had literally multiple fathers and uncles that treated me like their own. And my mom worked her tail off to provide for us as a single mom at the time. Um, my family is just incredible. Like the amount of people that I'm around that are of the highest level of human beings is ridiculous. And so those people believed in me. My grandfather, who's like my best friend and my hero, he believed in me before I even understood how to believe in myself. And to give someone that, just that pure level of confidence and trust, and holding you up to know, like, they know that you will be great just as a human being, man, that is such a powerful thing to do to somebody else and for somebody else, because that's when they get to look in and go, wow, what is it? What do they see in me? And how could I not win with that level of like love and support? So it kind of sparked um, a question that I live with every day. Why do I deserve all of this? Um, and that's going to be an impossible one to ever answer. So I changed it to, how can I try? So I wake up almost on a daily basis and look at my amazing family that, I have now, and my kids, and, my parents. And I ask myself, what am I going to do to try and deserve all of this love and this amazing life and this connection to these people? And it allows me to really focus on what I can do to better others. And I have no way of knowing if I have the capability, but there's one thing I do know that I have: the sheer willingness.
Mm.
That's something that I know I have deep down. I don't always have the answers at all, but I will show up and I'll be there with somebody. And I'll show up and know that if there is a way, I'm going to find it and I will perform it
Mm.
out of sheer will if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I think a
Do
lot
you
of it comes from that.
Mm. I was gonna say with your grandfather being one of the first that, if this is fair to say, that he was one of the first to believe in you and giving you that feeling of like, damn, like I know what it feels like for someone to believe in me. Do you feel like that is the reason why now you give so much to other people?
So I don't know. I don't know if I see it as me giving for other people. I just know that my focus is to try and help other people accomplish their goals. Foundationally, that's what I feel like it means to be of value to somebody else. Where are you at? Where do you want to be? Is there anything that I can do in that space? That's how to, for me, like if someone were to ask, how do you add value to somebody just in a generic way? That would be my answer. Find out where they are and find out where they want to be. And are there ways in which you can help fill that gap? So I don't know if I don't look at myself as being someone who's giving per se. I just wake up with that question like, dude, I've been given so much in my life. How am I going to try and deserve all of this? And so, it just sparks me wanting to find people and help them feel the same way. And I know for a lot of people, it's to give them the experience that I was blessed with, which is for a lot of agents out there, for a lot of just people in general, they don't know how to believe in themselves.
Mm.
Sometimes, if you can find a quality, a goodness, something about somebody and just express it to them, man, that's showing them that they have something of value. And
Mm.
sometimes people are so hard on themselves that they don't know how to recognize it. So tell them, I think it's really important sometimes to remind people like, man, if you could only see yourself through my eyes,
Mm.
sometimes that is just the little door of opening for them to be willing to say, wow, what are you seeing that I'm not open to seeing?
Mm.
And giving people that ability to be believed in so they can start to believe in themselves, I think is just a beautiful thing. At least that's my
Mm.
experience, man.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if it drives success or fulfillment. I have no way of knowing. I just know my experience. And I
Mm.
wouldn't trade my childhood and my upbringing and my life for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, I feel like a lot of people need that. Like, do you understand like what you're capable of? Like, do you not see what you have? Yeah. And just because of maybe their upbringing, maybe a lot of people were the opposite of you, where they were envious of what that person had. So their only option to stay, and I feel it comes out of being insecure, but their only option was to kind of like, I don't know if the shun is the right word, but like kind of like put that down and like, throw their greatness in the shade
Yeah.
to where they were like, oh man, like this person has so much. And so I'm going to do everything verbally and physically to not have this person sprout up into who they really want to become.
Definitely
And
could be
yeah.
the case. I'm sorry. And then I will also say, like, in our time now, I think that social media is only multiplying our condition as human
Mm.
beings. And I know that this has been true for a long time, but so many people have internal dialogues that are just horrible. They are just full on rancid. And if you think about it, for some of us, and this is even true of me sometimes, Cameron, when I'm not aware, the things that I'm willing to say to myself about myself, I would never say to another human being. I would
Mm.
never have like that level of evil in me to say that to someone else, but I'm willing to say it to myself. That's a human condition. And when we look at how social media has kind of multiplied that, now everyone gets to see everyone else's absolute best version or what they hope to aspire to be, but claim it now. That's all
Mm.
fine and good. But when people scroll through social and see all of that and do it in comparison of themselves, which isn't fair, right? Don't do that, anyone. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, number one. It's you versus you. And make that in a good way. That doesn't have to be bad. It could be very, very good. But the
Mm.
second thing is recognize what people put on social is normally the highest versions of themselves, or the version of themselves that they aspire to be at some point. It's not necessarily real. And who
Mm-hmm.
cares if it is? I think one other thing that I think people do wrong is they look at all the success and they start to, because they're comparing themselves, shame it, mock it, become angry at it. And now you are internalizing how you see success. What happens if you become successful?
Mm-hmm.
That's really going to mess with your psyche on a subconscious level. So I don't recommend doing that. My suggestion here is that I think if people can at least become aware of the internal self-talk, then they can get a lot clearer on how to just be nicer to themselves. And that will move the ball forward a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's really important for people to know and have practical tools. Right? That's my other big thing. I want people to know how to do something, not just to do it. I can't
Mm-hmm.
stand when, for example, have a big why. Thank you. I've heard that 1,000 times. How do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I really feel is needed out there in the world right now. So I'll give someone a couple of practical ideas. I want people who are struggling with having that level of belief in themselves to ask themselves a couple of questions and sit down and get still with this. Question number 1, what makes you great at what you do? I think if people really try to sit and find the essence of why they feel they're great at what they do, they're going to find a lot of really interesting answers and things that they should really investigate and lean into. The second thing is, if anyone's struggling with that, then reform the question. What are the people around you that are close to you, your family, your friends, people that are coworkers that really admire you? What do they love about you?
Mm-hmm.
What does your mom love about you, your son, your best friend? Like those people, what are the characteristics that they love about you? These are windows into the truth about the value that you bring to the world. And I think that if you can just have a little more intentional focus around that, then number one, you're going to believe in yourself a little bit more. And that tends to be momentous. The lack of belief in oneself is a cycle you can fall into. But then the focus of knowing what value you bring to every other human being in this life, that can be momentous in a very positive way as well.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that I think can happen there is that when you really lean into those things and try to make them themes in how you perform the functions in your life, you're automatically just going to get better results and be more excited and happy. And all of those things are also very momentous, oddly enough.
Walk me through the transition of you selling real estate to helping real estate agents sell real estate. Like what sparked that transition, wanting to help real estate agents?
Interesting. Okay, so I actually went to school to be a teacher. Okay, I don't know if you know this. My
I
whole
did it.
yeah. So my whole goal going into college, I recognize like from junior high to high school and then the college, like time seemed to be shrinking on me. I remember being in elementary school, third grade was my favorite, that every holiday was like a full month long. And I felt like it was a full season. Thanksgiving was a full season. Christmas, like every major holiday felt like it was leaning into a full month of being in, like present in that holiday. As I was getting older, and then Christmas started to feel like it was like a week that passed me by. I mean, I think a lot of us adults who are listening to this now, they know Christmas will sneak up on you. It's like one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be it that holiday or any other holidays that people celebrate. So I actually went into college with the idea I'm going to go be a teacher so I can go back to the time in my life where I got to be present and really experience those seasons for like a full month. So I wanted to go be an elementary school teacher. Simultaneously, I had people in my life in the real estate business that showed me, just what this side of the world can look like. And I realized that I'm very ambitious. So education in the normal sense, not for me, but I've always had a heart to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So as I continued to go through my real estate career, my number one focus is like, how can I help people? Right. I always wanted that to be the premise. And that built me a lot of success in real estate because I was always focused on what is important to the other person, not me. It wasn't about my goal, it wasn't about my agenda, it was about theirs. And fortunately, that resonated with my clients, with my repeat and referral business. But what I found is that there was a whole other subsection of the world that I could actually benefit with what I have. And those were the agents. So for me, it was like, great. I just kind of quadrupled the opportunity for me to have some kind of impact on other people.
Mm.
That's not to say that I can impact everyone, but if I could, I wanted to. Again, it's that driving question that I live with. And it's one that I really have learned to love. How am I going to really deserve all that I've been given already?
When did real estate elevated come about?
Yeah, like where did that slogan come from? I guess.
Hmm.
So I've had a lot of, again, this is my lucky self here. I've had a lot of time with people in the personal development space. I mean, I've coached one-on-one for years with mentors like Eric Plantenberg and Anthony Chavez. Um, just some really, really high level people performing on the highest level and being able to pour into others on the highest level. And so I just remember the theme of like, I like they're elevating me as a human being. When I started doing work with Eric Plantenberg and we're talking about the state, like the mental state, the emotional state, the physical state, and how, one of the easiest ways to get better results is to like elevate your state, your smoothie, so that like you're feeling better physically, you're emotionally happier, mentally your attitude, you're seeing things in a more positive and optimistic way that supports you. It was all of this elevation of me. And so I thought, that's my slogan then. Like when it comes to all the things that have brought me a better life and a better experience here, I want to do that in the real estate space. So for me, my slogan, and this helps me to come back to always the principle behind what I do, it's real estate, but it's elevated. That's the
Mm.
experience that I give to my clients. That's always at the heart of what I'm trying to do. And with the agents that I'm very fortunate enough to work with. How do
Mm.
I make real estate elevated?
I want to go back to a question that you asked me last week. What's the thing that you're really good at? And like what's that thing that comes natural to you? What's your talent? What do you feel that your gift is?
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. I don't know if anyone will care more than I do in life, and definitely in my business, and definitely with coaching with agents. And this is something that I've continued to try and work on and develop more. When I tell someone I'm going to do something, like it's from the depths of my soul that I follow through and perform the way that I said. If
Mm.
I get with an agent and I tell them like I'm going to help you build your listing presentation, or I'm going to help you, elevate your open house skill sets. If I'm not performing on that level, I'm not sleeping at night. Like it's literally like that for me. And that's a choice. I want that to be the case. My grandfather told me very early in life, your word is your bond. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a word, you have nothing. That always has stuck with me. So when I really tell someone I'm going to help them with something, or someone comes to me and says, Joe, here are the reasons why I want to buy a home, or this is why I'm selling my property to make this change in my life, I get really deep into their goals. And part of that reason is because I'm anchoring down and making it mine. Like, this is what's going to get me up tomorrow to go and kick butt for this person because I'm personally choosing to connect to their goal. I want to be a small piece of their journey. It's not mine. I don't take credit for it. But again, if for any way I have that ability to be a positive influence on someone's life, even in the smallest level, maybe then I can deserve everything I've been given and will continue to get. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way that I come full circle in trying to have fulfillment in what I do.
How do you, this is kind of a weird question, but for all the other people out there that are, they like genuinely care about providing a very valuable service to whoever that they're providing it to.
Mhm.
How do you protect your giving?
Interesting. Reframe what you mean by protect it.
How do you prevent people from taking advantage
It's a
of
great question.
givers?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really great question, Cameron. And I think I have got two different ways to respond to that, and both are true. Number one, I believe in the human race. I'm a believer in people. Okay. I know there are bad actors out there and there are bad apples, whatever. I try to live my life to the rule, not to the exception. What does that mean? That means if I'm going to start focusing on the few who could take advantage of me, my concern is that I may not be operating on my highest level for the rest of humanity. And I
Mm,
would rather just pour in and give to people because I do believe that they are deserving of that.
mhm,
If there are a few who are willing to take advantage, that's their business. Does
mm,
that make sense? I'm not going to let
mhm.
that affect how I approach everybody else.
Yeah, it's like you authentically give, um, even if the intention of the recipient isn't, I want to say, even if it's like bad intentioned of the recipient to take.
Yep. And I'll even tell
Yeah.
you this, Cameron. When I'm trying to just give that way, um, I think it's really key to not get stuck on focusing on the wrong people because then, you're going to start to change your approaches about things. So, yeah, I want to just give and people are going to do what they do. The other thing I think is really interesting though is it's really hard to try to see how other people may be taking advantage if that's not how you think. It's really hard to see it coming for that reason. That's
Mm,
okay. I don't want to think like them. I don't want to have that kind of filter in my life. I'm good. If that's how
mhm,
people are going to operate, that's their problem, not mine. However, because I
mhm,
know a bunch of people listening to this might be think, man, this guy just gets stepped on all the time. Absolutely not.
mhm,
Here's how I found how to let people filter themselves out. Okay. When I am meeting new clients or even repeat and referral business like family, I think it's really important for every agent. Your process is your process.
mhm,
Don't change it for your cousin versus an online lead. All right. And
mm,
here's why. Yes, your cousin probably already knows you, trusts you, likes you. That's great. But they may not know you as a professional. The online lead doesn't know you at all. And so
mhm,
I think when agents get an online lead and they're going to finally meet them or have a phone conversation, they're showing up as that professional because that's what they want them to know about them.
mhm,
Give your cousin that same opportunity to get to know you as the professional. Okay. They already know you, like you, trust you, and then they get to see you in a new light and go, wow, this is why I made the right decision with my cousin, as an example. Now, what I do in all of my presentations, Cameron, and again, this is because I've taken the time to really understand me. I've taken the time to really understand what I try to bring to the table. And there are values there, right? Those values are themes in my presentations. By the
mm,
time I get to the part where I'm asking for the business, I'm doing it in a way where if they don't believe in my beliefs, if they don't believe in the values that I have and they are not shared, trust me, they're going to know it. I'm going to know it. And we're not going to do business together.
mhm,
It's pretty rare now. And there are times when I'll walk away from a listing presentation and be like, man, what was it? Like that was just weird. Everything was great and then it wasn't. And I know when I sit with it, I get it. They don't value what I value. I'll even give you a part of my scripting when I'm done with a buyer consultation. Okay. And this is
mm,
exactly where a buyer broker agreement would get transitioned to and signed. When
mhm,
I'm done with everything I'm talking about with a buyer, I literally tell them, Cameron, when I take you on as a client, I want you to know that this is something important to me because when I understand your goals as a buyer, I choose to make them mine. So your
Mm.
goals are now my goals.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, and I want you to know, like when I have goals that are yours and I make them my own, I have nothing but loyalty for making sure those goals get accomplished.
Mm.
The only thing that I ask you in return is that same level of loyalty. And I put out my hand and I look them in the eye.
Mm.
You want to know something? That handshake is worth more than the signed buyer broker agreement.
Mm.
They don't look me in the eye. If they're not willing to shake my hand, if they start moving on to other questions and not addressing that moment, something's wrong. And it
Mm.
doesn't mean they're wrong or they're bad. We just aren't a good match.
That makes sense. It's a
So
really good
I'm
question
very
too.
forward with the values that are valuable to me and that I expect from my clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know how to weave them into your presentations and they're a theme about how you approach the business, when you come to that moment, they're either going to shake your hand and feel amazing about it. Those are the moments where clients walk away going, man, this just feels right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest level of depth as far as you impacting and speaking to a part of their brain that has nothing to do with communication, but it is where the brain changes behavior. Okay. So if you ever walk away from an experience where you're telling yourself, man, that just feels right, no, someone impacted you on a really deep level. And in your brain, it's the part that changes behavior, but doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation with communication, meaning you can't verbalize it.
Yeah.
It's also
Hmm.
the time where people are like, oh, hell no, this is not right. I'm out of here. And you want
Yeah.
both. I want both. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess the way to answer your original question, how do I protect myself? It's in both ways. Number one, I don't care about protecting myself.
Mm.
I care about adding value to others.
Mm.
The best defense for me is to have no defense at all. It's all offensive.
Mm.
And then the second way, though, is to add in all of the themes about the values that are important to me and that I expect in my clients. So that way they're front and center when people choose to do business with me. There's no question about what I expect of them in return in terms of the values that we're going to operate from.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say values, do you mean like mm, uh
Loyalty,
mm,
appreciation, respect, those kinds of things, those kinds of
mm,
values. Yeah.
mm. What's big vision for Real Estate Elevated? Tomorrow you could snap your fingers and everything's the way that you want it,
Yeah.
exactly to the T. Yeah. What's big vision for Real Estate Elevated?
Big vision is really this. I want to give the agents that are both great marketers and the agents who are great practitioners. Because I think if you look at the extremity of like the spectrum of agents, they come down to being like the most amazing marketers. And then on the other side is like the most amazing practitioners. And it's not like anyone is just one or the other, but I think there's a
Mm.
spectrum there. I want to have the amazing marketers really dive in and know how to genuinely care about and take care of their client on that practitioner level. And I want to help those practitioners who are already doing that. That's just who they are, become great marketers. I think you actually really helped me with this one quite a bit, Cameron, but it is at the end of the day about that experience. I want to level up this entire industry. We're under attack right now, right? And I think a lot of it
Mm.
has to do with what people see on television and agents in their suits every day and driving their Lambos and the whole nine. But I can tell you, and this, that is not the experience of 99.9% of the agents out there in the world. They're hardworking, caring people who are trying to do what I'm doing, help someone who's maybe going to make the biggest investment or liquidate their biggest asset in their entire life, understand all the reasons why they're doing it and satisfy every single one of them so that they have the best experience doing that. That's what an agent should do. And if I can help those people really level up their game and level up the entire industry, then I don't care what AI technology, new companies come into the marketplace. You can't replace leadership and sincerity. And I think if people have more of those two things on a higher level, there will always be a place for a real estate professional moving forward. The whole premise of Real Estate Elevated really has to do with the practical tools. No more of this is what you should do. There's enough of that in our industry and every other industry in the world. So
Mm,
for Real Estate Elevated to actually meet its full purpose and give agents that ability to go out there and have a greater impact, then there needs to be practical step-by-step how-tos.
mm,
So that's really the premise of how I approach all of these things when it comes to not only working with my buyers and sellers, but working with agents to build them up and build up their businesses as well. Because if
mm,
it was just shouting like everyone else about what you should do, that's great. It makes for a good TikTok, but I don't know if that moves the ball forward at all. And
mm.
I'm not about clout. I'm about results. I'm not
Yeah.
about the praise. I'm about actually helping someone get better.
Yes, yes. And I feel right now the industry, and maybe if you could talk a little bit about like the problems that you see in the industry that are equating to real estate agents not really, hitting their goals, and a lot of them getting stuck in that first year. I forgot. Do you remember the data on how many real estate agents leave like within the first, I forgot how
Upward
many
of
years?
80% in the first, I want to say 3 years, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, that are
Dang.
brand new licensees will end up leaving the business. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's exactly that, Cameron. I think there's layers as to why. Number one, real estate as an industry has for a long time really been a dog eat dog mentality when it comes to the agents involved, right? That's why so many agents struggle when they see a great producer in their office next door. And when they want to go engage that person, like, hey, how are you growing your business? This industry for a long time is one in which, will, if I help you eat, that's food off of my plate. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that mentality needs to just die. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough business for everybody. And quite honestly, if we all come together, then we can be, as a community of agents, that rising tide that raises all ships. So I think that level of collaboration has been um, absent from our industry for a long time. But I also understand why. The traditional real estate model designed it that way
Mm-hmm.
because if you're going to pour into someone else, how does that benefit you? And monetarily, it never did in the traditional real estate models.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one big area of challenge. Okay. The second one really is this, like when agents sit down to do a business plan, and I know everyone does business plans and they should. Okay. You got to plan your work so you can just go and work your plan. All right. But the challenge with a lot of business plans out there is they don't have like a holistic approach to the business. For example, the way that I do business planning really has three main components that all come together. The first one is uh, deconstruction of the goal, because most goals in real estate are how much money am I going to earn? That's why we're doing the business, right? We want to earn an income. So you got to deconstruct that number so you can be really clear on what lead measures you should be hitting consistently to hit that goal. Okay. The second piece, and this is what most people do for business planning, but it's really defining the pillars of your client acquisition strategies. This is what I'm going to do every day to go and grow my production. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third piece is integration. Because if you do all the other stuff and you don't actually apply it to how you show up every day and work, then it was just a real fun experience to write down some dreams.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the plan of a business plan. The idea here is to know your numbers, to identify exactly what your strategies are going to be, back into the integration piece, so you're actually doing it. The integration piece should show back up into your numbers in your lead metrics to know if you're on track. If you're not on track from the integration, you got to go and make adjustments there to the calendar, the type of strategies, whatever it is that you're doing, so that the numbers line up.
Mm-hmm.
Most business planning is getting mud, throwing it against the wall, and hoping something sticks.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be that way. So I think a lot of the lack of understanding on how to properly do a business plan for agents, especially new ones, that's another massive deal.
Mm.
And then I think the third layer of your question is that a lot of agents want to understand how to do everything before they go and do it.
Mm,
And there's so many reasons why that is a flawed approach. Okay. Number
mm-hmm,
one, you're going to take forever because trust me, in this business, I've been in it 19 years, going on 20 next year.
mm,
Trust me, Cameron, every year I'm still learning new things because even if you learned it all, guess what? Markets change. Consumer behavior changes, technology changes. You're never going to stop learning.
yep,
So many people, and I understand why they do this because they don't know what they don't know and they don't have the support to help them clean up a mess that they could create. So
yeah,
I understand why this happens, but so many agents get stuck in wanting to be professional students. Number one, they take too long. Okay. So for a lot of agents, their savings, their income is just not there while they're learning. Okay.
mm, mm,
The second thing that happens is they take all this time to be perfect before they start, and you'll never be perfect until you start.
mm,
But even then, and then, so they've taken all the time to learn, and then they go and try once, and it doesn't work the way that they thought.
mm,
Now they convince themselves that the strategy doesn't work or the approach doesn't work. And that's not true.
yeah,
Everything takes skill set in actual life, meaning you need to build skills in what it looks like to actually have the conversation. I don't care if you know the script. What's your tonality? Are you listening? Like there are so many more things to learn other than just the classroom style setting learning.
yeah,
So at the end of it, I think the most important thing to do is know how to have the support that you need as an agent to go out there and do the right activities that will lead to results while you learn the rest of the business by someone who has the structure to deliver it to you.
mm-hmm,
This is exactly the reason why I created 0 to 6 figures in 20 weeks. And that's exactly the methodology that I approached it with, so that agents will get thrown into the deep end, quite honestly, because I know that's what they need. They will be taught the business in a systematic way, and they will have someone there to support them. Because the greatest problem an agent is worried about, but it's the best problem they can have, they pick up the phone and make a call, and someone says, I want you to come talk to me about listing my home. If they had the right support there and the right people to support them, they wouldn't worry about that. They'd take it all day long. And I guarantee you, I could sit with an agent for 10 weeks straight and teach them everything about listing a home, how to market it, the process, the checklist and escrow, what to look out. I could do all that. They will not learn anywhere near as much as the agent that picks up the phone, makes a phone call day one, gets a listing appointment, and we do that listing together. They will learn in such a more expeditious and a more grounded way that will stick with them.
yeah, yeah. You have to play the game to learn the game.
You're not going to win it unless you're in it.
Yeah, yeah. Those were two really good.
I know. I don't even know where that came
Yeah.
from.
If you could, I want to ask you a very generic question. The
All
question
right.
that I see often. If you were to go back to your first year in the business, Joseph.limo,
Yeah.
and you had the opportunity as soon as you got licensed that day, the next day you popped up, what would you tell them?
Ooh, what would I tell them? Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Twofold. Number one, and this is the most important one, commit. Don't play real estate. If you're going to do something in your life, like pick a career, commit. Burn those ships, man. Like just see yourself as that professional and start building your skill sets, your business, everything about what you do with that perspective. Not, I'm going to try this.
Mm,
Commit. Make that decision. That's number one. Number two, I know this is painstaking and I know it's monotonous and I know most people don't do this the right way. Get your database organized. Make sure you really build that thing out. That process, Cameron, and a communication plan around that, understand that is the business. Like that will be your business moving forward. It's like building a car. You want to build a crappy engine and then build a beautiful car around it, but the engine sucks? Of course not. Start with the most important pieces that actually make the vehicle go and build those out as robustly as you can, as thoroughly as you can, in the most organized fashion as you can, and then really set up exactly how you're going to engage them. Why is this so important? Because as you meet new people every single day and you hold open houses and you door knock, you're pouring them into a system that works.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have known that from day one, my career would have looked dramatically different. So if I could go back, those are the two things I would say. Number one, commit. Just be that person now. Like, if you're going to do this, commit 1,000%. Just that decision alone changes the game. Number two, take the time to really pour into that database. And people think, oh, I've done it already. Have you? Like, I always give this analogy. My cousin, her name's Dana. Her best friend growing up is a girl named Megan Tellis. Megan's mom is Carol. Okay. My cousin's best friend's mom. If I was walking down a supermarket right now and Carol walked past me and I didn't see her, but she saw me, she'd go, Joey, what are you doing here? That's the depth of people that need to be in your database. My cousin's best friend's mother, she needs to be in my database. Okay, so that's how far and how deep we need to have those roots go. And it all needs to be organized with a communication plan. You do that, you're going to have an amazing career.